Welcome to the Wedding Songs Podcast, featuring newly released songs you need to know and the tried and true classics. Get song ideas from the time guests arrive until the last dance of the reception. And now your host, Matt Campbell, founder of MyWeddingSongs.com.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wedding Songs Podcast. I am Matt Campbell. Today, we're going to be talking about cocktail hour music. But not only cocktail hour, just consider when the doors open and your guests arrive. That's the music that we're going to be talking about today. And to help me along with the topic is Gregg Hollmann from Ambient DJ, headquartered in New Jersey. Welcome to the show, Gregg.
Hi, Matt. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. You're definitely one of the knowledgeable people on the planet for playlist creating. So had to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Please tell everybody a little bit about your heartwarming or memorable moment that you've had at weddings in the past.
Sure. I have a couple of stories I'd like to share. So the first one was a couple named Wesley and Chris. And here in New Jersey, they legalized same-sex marriage in 2013. And our company donated our DJ service to this same-sex wedding giveaway. And there were about 10 couples that applied. But the winning couple, the one with the best love story, they received free DJ, venue, catering, photo booth, photography, videography, wedding planner. They got the full suite, and they were just an amazing couple. They had a commitment ceremony about 20 years prior. So they've been together a long, long time. And they were just so happy to be able to celebrate more formally with their family and friends. It was a great wedding, so many heartfelt moments, packed dance floor, really nice people. We're still in touch all these years later. And they actually have a podcast, a culinary podcast called How to Feed a Loon. So that's the first story. The second would be, this was going back even farther. So about 20 years ago, I DJ'd a destination wedding in New Orleans for a friend, high school friend. And I went down there basically with a pair of CDJs and a mixing board, my laptop computer. I don't think I had a laptop back then. I think we were using CDs. And the reception was at a very old golf course in New Orleans that's since been shut down. But it was a pretty low, no frills wedding. They just had beer and wine. They had like one or two selections for food, but it was just an electrified atmosphere musically. Like I just felt it right from the grand entrance and first dance. Everyone was excited to be there. It was an atmosphere of celebration, just with Hope and Tom, the bride and groom. It was just so much fun. Maybe that's the difference between New Orleans and New Jersey. Sometimes you have to force the action or warm people up, but it was a great party. And then I nodded off about halfway through the party. A band took over and I joined the fun out on the dance floor.
Wow, that's incredible as a DJ where the band is second, because typically I would think the band would be first and then the DJ does the late night party.
Oftentimes, yeah. Or sometimes we work with bands and we play in between sets. Bands need breaks. They can't play for 4 hours straight like DJs can. So we play in between and try to give the guests some alternative musical flavors and styles than the band would be able to. And then, yeah, a lot of times we do after parties as well.
Please tell everybody a little bit about you and your company, just to give them an idea of what you do there.
I was musically inclined from a young age. I grew up playing piano, studied piano for about 15 years, played alto sax, played tuba in the high school marching band. I was an avid collector of jazz vinyl during high school. I thought about pursuing a career in music, but I didn't feel that I was talented enough as a performer, and I didn't want to be a music teacher. So therefore, I opted to study business and finance. I had a great job with Merrill Lynch after college, but I started to miss music. So in my mid-20s, I just started dabbling learned how to DJ, bought myself a 2-channel mixer, bought some vinyl, did house parties for free, and I found that I had a real knack for it, and guests were giving me positive feedback. I just kept going with it. I had a well-paying finance job in the meantime. I would moonlight on the weekends as a DJ and then earn a good paycheck during the week, up until about 10 years ago when I cut the cord and put the finance away. And now running a DJ company is all that I do. So I do it on a full-time basis. We are Ambient DJs located in the Princeton area in New Jersey. I started out as a single op myself, added Mike Bacon, DJ Iron Mike, who's been on your show before, I know, talking about quick mixing. And the staff just grew organically from there. So currently we have about 15 DJ entertainers on our staff. We work primarily in New Jersey, a little bit in Bucks County, occasionally New York City. We do about 725 events a year.
That's incredible. Congratulations on building the business, because that's just in 10 years. I think that's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you.
Let's get a little bit into the music, because I think that you are known in the DJ industry for creating playlists. I'm not going to claim that title. You're probably considered the GOAT of themed cocktail hour playlists at any rate. Why did you start creating those playlists?
Sure. So I was always interested in creating playlists. From the early days, I would do compilation CDs, mix CDs. So I was always a musical curator. And at some point, I got the idea to do a cocktail hour series. And I shared it with my DJ staff and said, hey, put together 1 hour of cocktail music sequenced in a way that would work at an actual cocktail hour. Name your playlist and pick an accompanying signature drink, whether that's a cocktail, a beer, a mocktail, a soft drink, whatever. It wasn't about boozing up. It was about the music, but pairing them together. So we had a lot of fun with it. I guess in the first round, we got about 10 submissions. So I said, I have a lot more ideas. Let's keep going with this. And we hit themes like yacht rock, crooners, Great Gatsby, the Beatles, Billy Joel, Tiki. I just kept going and going. And 3 or 4 years later, we're at 120 themed cocktail hour playlists. So I took a breather. I'll still add them, but I need to be inspired. So usually just through living life and traveling and hearing things that would provide a spark for a new playlist idea.
That's awesome that you had the inspiration to do that. And I agree that sometimes it is fun where you'll get, like we were talking about, a Miami Vice theme, or the couples will do that a lot too, because they'll have their music preferences. It could be concerts, it could be maybe they're Disney fans, whatever that looks like. Now you're creating that. When creating your cocktail hour playlists, do you consider the venue, the time of the day, and the overall theme of the wedding?
Definitely. And we ask our clients, do they have any input on the direction they would like to go for cocktail hour? Oftentimes they don't. It's not something that they've considered. They're more focused on their special songs for the reception and what songs are we going to dance to? But, oh, cocktail hour, I never thought about that. So if they don't have any ideas, I'll usually guide them or give them some different alternatives. But what I usually recommend, if they're not set on any particular genre or vibe, is a variety of genres and decades, just to keep it interesting for the audience. Imagine an hour of all Sinatra, all crooners. It's cool, but it gets a little bit monotonous. Same if it was all electronic beats. But what if we started with some crooners and then did some soft rock, some yacht rock, and then some current pop, and then maybe something with some beats towards the end to get people ready for the reception? And I think that variety is the recipe for a good cocktail hour playlist. Sometimes our clients give us their Spotify playlists and we run with that, or they give us a few songs and we extrapolate. But yeah, my general template is cocktail hour starts with nobody in the room. It's silent. People trickle in. So don't want to come in too heavy, something a little lighter, and then just work the energy up through the hour as the people are coming in, as they're having their first cocktail, their second cocktail, maybe their third cocktail, and you feel the energy go up, and then it's time to segue into the reception.
When you're talking to your couples during the consultation, how do you get that to come across in the consultation that this is probably the best way, even though, let's say they want all instrumental music or all acoustic music? Can that still be accomplished?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the clients, it's their day and they decide, but similar to consulting with a doctor, I'll offer some advice or share some experiences and say, hey, for example, classical music, it doesn't sound great over a sound system. There's a lot of dead air. It's quiet and it explodes. It's probably not the best music for your cocktail or certainly for an entire hour. I would say things like that. Or I would say, well, hey, have you considered maybe adding a little variety? And generally they'll go along with that.
I'm very happy that you're saying that because I went to a wedding last year that was still, I think, stuck in the 90s where it was the John Coltrane's, the CDs of jazz music. And I think that has its place, but to play that for an hour, let's just say that after dinner, a lot of the guests left because bored out of their mind.
Right, right. I think for some clients or DJs, cocktail hour is kind of a throwaway. It's prior to digital DJing and all the technology and apps that we have now. It was a little bit harder, but there were some DJs who literally put a Kenny G CD on for the cocktail hour and just let that rock. Nothing against Kenny G. He's a cool guy. But an hour of Kenny G and not having the originality to do different vibes for different couples, I think it's not as fun a wedding or as unique or customized a wedding if you just go in with the easy way, the lazy way, the same old, same old.
I agree. Just adding that personality. And and I know that if the couples instill their personality into the playlist, guests are going to know that you're doing that as well. If the wedding couple, as an example, are huge Journey fans and you're playing Journey during cocktail hour, then they're going to understand that. Maybe you don't want an hour of it, but at least they're going to understand it.
Sure, sure. And we do get a lot of positive feedback from our clients and guests who enjoy a fresher perspective on the music, not the same old stuff. We're not giving them an hour of elevator music or an hour of smooth jazz. We really put some greater thought into the selections. And same thing for dinner music at the reception. We don't have that CD or that playlist we always put on. We try to customize it to the client, to the couple, and maybe hit some songs that are very unique, not so danceable, that probably wouldn't work for the mainstream open dancing later, but dinner, cocktail hour, those are good moments to place those unique songs, whether that's indie rock or international music, things like that.
Have you had any unique playlists that you can share? I can think of on a DJ board once, a DJ was requested to play all Boston Nova music. And I'm like, wow, that would be so cool to play. But I'm not sure about an hour, but man, that would be awesome. So do you have any examples?
Yeah, so we did have a wedding in Asbury Park a couple of years ago where the couple picked all sort of bossa nova jazz covers of popular songs by artists like The Weeknd. And it was cool. I think it got a little bit monotonous towards the end, but it was interesting. I enjoyed it.
That's cool. Yeah, not something you hear every day. I'm sure that's what kept people's attention too.
Then we had a multicultural wedding. The groom was Asian American and a professional ballet dancer. I think he may not have been active, but at some point he's been a professional ballet dancer, and his wife was from Latin America. They did a wonderful tango for their first dance, but in their cocktail hour, we played some classic Spanish music and ballroom type music that I would not typically play during a cocktail hour, but I played it because of who the couple was.
Exactly. I love it. I love when couples add their personality to it. They don't have to give you a list of 50 songs for it, give you a list of 4 or 5 just to get you in one direction. And then your creative juices can get flowing for the rest of it. At your weddings, do guests dance during the cocktail hour?
So most of the time I will pre-program a cocktail hour, like I said, with that formula of the rising energy, and let it rock using an iPod or tablet or something like that. You may see some people dancing. Certainly our hope would be that they're tapping their feet or vibing out with the music. We see dancing more and we have some hybrid musician fusion packages where a sax player will do the cocktail hour. That human interaction is more likely to induce some dancing. The energy feeds of the musician, the guests feed off each other, and you can see some dancing break out. We have a relatively new package where we offer couples the option of having a DJ. It's usually a separate DJ, do the cocktail hour on all vinyl. So not Serato control vinyl, but he'll bring a couple crates out, he or she, and play stuff like Stevie Wonder or The Weeknd and Michael Jackson. And we leave some request slips up there if they can browse through the crates if they want to request a song or artist. Again, that visual element of seeing a DJ and handing the vinyl, that makes guests more likely to participate or dance.
I think that's a great tip of having the vinyl DJs in there where you're getting that vintage feel.
Right. I think couples should consider live music for their cocktail hour. It's not a throwaway. It's a time to be unique, but whether that's a jazz trio or a flamenco act with a singer and a flamenco guitar player, sax player, an electric violinist. Sure, it's a little more expensive than having a DJ play pre-recorded music, but it's ultimately more entertaining and makes for a more unique event.
I love that. I talked to Jay Murch about that on a past podcast, and having that infusion of the DJ and the live musicians awesome. Time for a short break to let you know about the Wedding Music Toolkit. This 28-page book will guide you through picking all the songs that are needed for the wedding ceremony and reception. Plus, it includes a wedding day timeline, day of wedding checklist, and also popular and unique alternatives to wedding moments such as the processional, recessional, first dance, and last dance. So make sure you check out the Wedding Music Toolkit. It is available on Amazon and on my website, myweddingsongs.com. Now, back to the show. So how do you gauge guest preferences and adjust the music selection accordingly by how they're reacting to it?
If we're doing a preset playlist, there's not a lot of ability to do that. I could switch out of a playlist to a new playlist if I saw it was bombing, but usually that doesn't happen. So I just try to make the playlist inclusive, tailor it to the couple, tailor it to my understanding of the crowd. And most weddings are going to feature guests of all ages. I call them middle-aged adults, which is the politically correct term for people in their 40s and 50s and up. But let's be inclusive and play some music for everybody.
That's a great transition into how do you find the couples responding to music that maybe you're unexpected, and what genres are they requesting for their cocktail hour music? Meaning, what vibe do they want?
First off of that question, it varies. We try to find out whether the wedding couple is even going to attend the cocktail hour. Sometimes they don't attend. Most times they'll attend for about half of it. They're usually running around doing photographs. So if these songs are really important to them, I try to make sure that they're in the room. Or if they're not going to be there, I'll play their favorite cocktail songs for dinner music or in between courses at the reception. But I think couples enjoy, to the extent that you can extrapolate and go a little bit deeper than what they like or expect, some of those deeper cuts that, wow, how did you know that song? Or that was just such a pleasant surprise. So that just comes from experience and knowing your music. During the reception, we have a game plan and we know a lot about the couple. But if you listen during those speeches and toasts and talking to guests, you can learn things about the couple. Or maybe the bridesmaid in her speech mentions that growing up, they used to have sleepovers and blast Stacy's mom. So a little later in the night, we'll make sure to play Stacy's mom, and they'll look over at the DJ and they'll be so happy. A lot of clues that you can pick up by just being tuned in.
I think that that's a really, really important factor that you mentioned is you could have the couple requesting whatever music, but if they're not going to be there to enjoy it, then I think that's a great tip to plan that for the dinner instead of having that when they're not there, when they're taking their pictures, because they're not going to enjoy it. So yeah, I think that's a huge tip that you just made there.
Yeah, I was just going to add, we don't do it every time, but for some of our favorite couples after the events, we'll compile a Spotify playlist. It could be the exact set that we played that night, either cocktail hour or the dinner reception, just sort of as a commemoration of this is what actually went down at your wedding, or a cocktail hour where they weren't there, but here's the playlist that we played and you can enjoy it.
I love that. How can couples incorporate the modern music while maintaining an elegant atmosphere during the cocktail hour?
Sure. I think there's a lot of exciting cover versions these days of classic songs, and they're very easy to discover with Spotify these days. So yeah, I would suggest taking classic songs and playing a version by a more contemporary artist. It's a nice hybrid where everyone will recognize the song, but it's just a little more modern take. Those types of songs are good.
To put you on the spot a little bit then, talking about electronic dance music, if the couple's really into that, just because it's growing so much in popularity, how would you intermix that into a cocktail hour?
There are some artists that I really enjoy in the electronics. We're in like the tropical house, new disco, deep disco genres that could be about 105 beats per minute. Acts like Satin Jackets or Disclosure. Calvin Harris has some material in that tempo, but that's a nice area. It's not too heavy, but you can kind of get into a groove. And that's what electronic music is to me. It's atmospheric and groovy and can get you locked in.
So how do you ensure that the cocktail hour music meets the couples and the guests' expectations?
Well, I think having good music, the raw materials, that's number one. The tracks that you've selected, I think the sequence is important so that it feels like a natural progression rather than just a jagged up and down, no direction, like a random walk. And I think volume is also important. You want music, you want it to be present, but you don't want it to be overwhelming, nor do you want it to just disappear into the cacophony of conversations. So finding that perfect level and adjusting it as the cocktail hour unfolds, I think is important.
So do you have a favorite cocktail hour playlist or a vibe that you like?
Well, sometimes on like late on a Sunday night after a busy weekend of events, I like to sit in my home office and I like to listen to jazz like Miles Davis and Charlie Parker and that sort of stuff and have a glass of wine. And just, yeah, that's kind of my version of a fun cocktail hour. I love electronic music. I love international music. So all these playlists that we put together, yacht rock, I think for different occasions, I'd be down for all of them.
Because you're in New Jersey, I have to ask because I'm from that area originally. Do you ever get the occasional Jersey Boys music that you have to play, Frankie Valli and all that style of music?
Occasionally, the Jersey Boys and Frankie Valli. It's not unusual to see a couple of Frankie Valli tracks on a wedding playlist. Can't Take My Eyes Off of You is a huge track, particularly for reception. It's a great sing along and it gets very exciting. Bruce Springsteen is very popular in New Jersey to this day. So I like to incorporate some Springsteen tracks, particularly if I'm working on the Jersey Shore, Monmouth County, like Asbury Park. I grew up in Monmouth County, but that's Bruce Springsteen country. And he's has such a deep catalog. I think for wedding receptions, the dance parties, Springsteen can be hit or miss. Like his super fans, they're all in on all the songs. But if you're not that type of fan, you're not going to react that well. So I like Dancing in the Dark. That's a good track for all audience, in my opinion. Sort of a cocktail hour track for the boss. I like 10th Avenue Freeze Out. That's a really nice song and gets great audience reactions.
Fantastic. So if you're listening from New Jersey, planning a wedding, there you go. Some great tips. Let's talk a little bit more about you to close it out. You recently released a new book, The Mixology Experience. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, there's a picture of the book. So can you tell everybody a little bit about the book?
Sure. I wanted to share some of the positive experience that I was having listening to music, enjoying cocktails, and the synergy when you do both. So we have all these senses. Music obviously is for the ear, but we have the taste, we have smell. So cocktail, like a good night out. So for example, I recently went to a spot in Brooklyn called the Clover Club, and they're very well known for their craft cocktails and live music. So it was Wednesday night, it was jazz. They had a Brazilian, I think it was a quartet, but there was a trombone player, bass player, keyboard. They were playing some wonderful bossa nova music and other things. It was a dimly lit atmosphere. I enjoyed a Clover Club cocktail. That's their specialty. Then I moved on to a drink called the Duck Hunt, which had vodka. It was infused with duck fat. Of course, the fat wasn't in there, and made into a fancy martini. So my wife and I are having just a great time sitting back, enjoying our cocktails, listening to the jazz music, and all of our senses are tingling with delight. So the idea of my book was to present some of my favorite themed playlists, things like yacht rock or the speakeasy, and then pair them with craft cocktails that would go well with the musical vibe, rather than just ask AI, hey, can you pump out 18 cocktail recipes and generate 18 images and call it a day? I actually took the time to learn how to make these cocktails, tweak them, appreciate them, photograph them. It was about a 2-year project to put this all together, which I enjoyed the process.
To give people an example, and you're listening to yacht rock, what are some of the songs that might be playing and what would be the drink that you'd be enjoying?
Sure. So let me call that up. So There is the yacht rock playlist in the book here. We have artists like Toto, Georgie Porgy. Are you familiar with that song, Matt?
I am. That's a great song.
It's a wonderful song. We have Michael McDonald, I Keep Forgetting, which is one of the top or most yacht rock tracks of all time. There's actually a website called yachtornyat.com, which rates the yachtiness of a song. So if you want to know whether it's yacht rock, you can always consult there. Steely Dan, Hall & Oates, Kenny Loggins, Little River Band, things like that. And the signature cocktail was a lighter drink. This is the spicy watermelon margarita. And there's the instructions on how to make it. And I also included a bonus suggestion. That was a particular craft beer called Cali Creamin'. It's a vanilla cream ale, but nice and light. Be great if you're out on your yacht. I don't know if you have a yacht, Matt, but
no, I can picture that.
You can actually click the QR code and go to the Spotify playlist and actually enjoy it. It's more than words on a page. You can actually listen to it. And then there's a bonus mix on Mixcloud, which is a separate playlist. This mix was done by DJ Iron Mike, and it's mostly different tracks than this, but it's mixed. There's transitions as opposed to the Spotify playlist, which is unmixed. And yeah, so you have a cocktail, you listen to the Yacht Rock playlist or Iron Mike's mix, and hopefully you have a mixology experience.
That's phenomenal. So those of you who are listening, I'm going to have links to buy the book in the show description. Speaking of that, do you have any upcoming projects because you're so ambitious?
Right. Well, the first project is I call it the Wedding Music Masterclass, which is our annual survey of wedding music, the best first dance songs, parent dance, grand entrance songs, cake cutting, bouquet and garter, and then our cocktail hour playlists, songs not to play at a wedding, top Latin dance songs, and so forth. We took a brief hiatus from it during the pandemic. We weren't having enough weddings, and I thought that music had gotten a little bit stagnant. And recently, I've just been backed up with other projects and the rigors of running a business, but that I promise is going to be released in this April, and we'll do a big blog post. I'm excited that we'll be cross promoting your site, Matt, and we think very highly of your work. And in fact, for special songs and first dance, you go into a lot more detail and really keep track of all the new emerging tracks, whereas we're hitting the big ones and certainly not going as deep into country music because country music is a bit less popular here in New Jersey.
Very cool. And then I heard through the grapevine too that you were working on another project about DJs.
Right. I have another book in me, and this one is called, prospectively, The Rise and Fall of Star DJs. For those of you who aren't aware, Star DJs was a New Jersey-based company that came into prominence during the 80s and early 90s. So this was the era of sequin jackets, mullets, big bridal shows, hairspray, and Star DJs was founded by a great guy named John Murphy, who started as a solo op. He had a couple of DJs, was able to replicate his style fairly well. Mike Walter, who you may know, very successful in the mobile DJ industry and in multi-op management and training in particular. He was a DJ entertainer at Star. He was the operations manager for a time. A lot of the big names who came out of the Star system, but Star scaled up from John Murphy to the early 90s. Like we're talking like 1992. I read an article that said they were doing 6,000 private events per year and doing millions in revenue. They had an incredible rise, but they also fell fairly quickly as well, at least in New Jersey. I think there's some lessons and there's some colorful stories. So the idea is to do a lot of research, talking to the entertainers, to the managers, and put it all together, figure out what happened, get some lessons and takeaways, write a book, and who knows, maybe it could be adapted into a documentary or movie someday, like The Wolf of Wall Street.
I love that because everybody thinks of the EDM DJs versus the mobile DJs. So I think that would be fascinating, not only just for our industry, but I think everybody across the board, because we all had DJs at our weddings.
And that style of entertainment has gone way out of favor. Few people want a flamboyant DJ entertainer or the DJ in a sequin jacket leading a conga line or lots of audience participation. But things do come full circle, so that style may come back. But it was a period in time, and Star DJs ruled the roost.
to close things out, is there something that we missed about cocktail hour music that you think that we still want to share?
I think we covered what I wanted to speak about. Yes, we're good.
Okay, cool. Where can listeners connect with you, including your book?
If you were interested in purchasing the book or checking out some of the Spotify playlists that are in the book, we have a dedicated website, Mixology-Experience.com. Pretty self-explanatory, but there's a shop tab, which is where you click and can purchase the book. On social media, on Instagram, I'm at Ambient DJs, AMBIENT DJS. My cocktail Instagram is at Music Mixologist. TikTok is at Music Mixology. And if you want to see those 120 cocktail hour playlists, we have a dedicated website, musicmixologist.wedding.
Awesome, Greg. I know if you want to be looking at all those and clicking on the links, like I said before, just click those links on the show notes. Stay tuned for next week for another interview with another wedding pro. Thanks for listening and have a great day. And thanks, Greg.
My pleasure, Matt. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Wedding Songs Podcast. Never miss a future episode. Subscribe today to our podcast. Follow us on Facebook at My Wedding Songs and send us a message about playlists you would like covered.